Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of JRPG Journal. Today, we're going to talk about one of the all-time classic JRPGs, in my opinion, the quintessential classic JRPG, and that is Lunar, the Silver Star Story, or you may have known it as Silver Star Harmony on the PSP. Now, I've played both games, both versions, but the one on PSP is the one that kind of sticks out to me because that's the one I played first, and it kind of fell in a interesting time of my life. Now, I can remember growing up having a friend. He always had a lot of JRPGs as well. You know, I had some, and then the ones I didn't have, they always ended up having. And I can remember going over and they had that big box set that came with a map and a guidebook and an art book and the story behind the game. So it was really cool to kind of read all that, and you just don't see standard versions of games like that anymore, just any versions of any game like that. It was a very unique, very cool, very collectible version of the game, which I believe is maybe the only way it came. I'm not sure. That was a long time ago, so I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments about how the different versions of that. But I played Silver Star Harmony when I was living in South Korea. This was a time when I had my PSP. I had played a lot of different JRPGs, and it was sort of just a great time for me to get into handheld gaming because it was on the train a lot, and there would be weekends where maybe there wasn't a lot going on, so I was able to just kind of boot it up and really enjoy it. And the reason why, to me, I think of it as the quintessential JRPG is because it almost seems generic now, but back in the day, this is the one that started it all. You know, it's a love story about a guy. He has this girl, and he goes on this adventure to find, 4 crystals or whatever, or in this case, defeat all the dragons and become the dragon master, and then he's got to save the girl at the end. But it's done in such a way that it's timeless. It's so special and good, and I still think it holds up today, especially the PSP version. The PS1 version is a little rough with the 16-bit, the spritey character models and art style, but it even back then on the PS1 had voice acting, and on the PSP, I'm pretty sure they re-recorded voices for it, and man, even those are just really good. It helps really connect to the characters, and it's very simple. It's just, it starts off with these guys like, yeah, let's go find the dragon egg, let's go to this cave, and before you know it, they're kind of caught up in this, 100,000-year-old adventure story. It's more than they could have ever imagined, and it's kind of cool to see how the characters grow as the course goes on. Your friend eventually starts up his own item shop, and you find out some really interesting things about your love interest. I'm not going to ruin the story. I know this game is really, really old, and you probably should have played it by now, but I will not ruin it because it's a very cool, interesting twist, and it will definitely not make the game as impactful if you know that twist about her. But nonetheless, it was just really cool to kind of go to all these different dragons, and each town was very different, and it's, again, the quintessential, even party makeup. You had your magic caster, you had your healer character, and characters that would betray you. Somebody you thought you could call a close ally was eventually somebody that would betray you, and again, very much a trope now at this point. Somebody that you thought was close to you turning on you, but to me, this is just the very quintessential JRPG. And again, it was in a time when I really needed to be reinvigorated for games. I had played a lot of World of Warcraft. I had been replaying a lot of Madden and Tony Hawk, and I hadn't really found my JRPG roots. I hadn't really gotten back into it. But again, I had this PSP. I had exhausted all the games that I brought with me to Korea, and so I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I had heard good things about this game. I mean, over the years, even when it was on PS1, but now that it's out on PSP, I was like, okay, let's finally give this game a shot. And I can even remember the night I beat it and just staying up in my bed really late. Those are always the best memories, aren't they? When you're up really late, it's like 1, 2 in the morning, it's dark out, it's super quiet, and you beat that game and you get that really powerful song at the end credits, and you're just in bed in the glow of your screen, and you're like, wow, what an incredible game. I can remember I fell asleep watching the end credits. I can remember I woke up and I had the start screen on my PSP staring at me, and I'm like, wow, I fell asleep to this game. And there are very few games I can say that about where I just had, stayed up all night and just had this really great connection to it. And it was, again, kind of almost a rough patch in my life too, because Korea had I had ups and downs when I was there. The first 4 months were really rough. I wanted to go home, but once I got over that hump, I was able to kind of, learn the language and get, acclimated to the town, and it was a lot better. And I think, Lunar was one of those games that really got me through that tough time where sometimes I would just take my PSP to a cafe somewhere far away that I really enjoyed by the beach and, get enriched, just get involved in this really cool story. And I almost want to say that Lunar was one of those games that helped me fall in love with games and JRPGs all over again. There are, I would say, 4 games in total that I attribute that to, and Lunar is maybe the one that kicked it off the most, or the one that really got the ball rolling. So Lunar Silver Star Story, in particular the PSP version, will always have a very special place in my gaming heart, because I definitely would not be here today without that game if it didn't leave the impact it had on me. It didn't have the great characters, the great music. The music in that game, oh my goodness. Some amazing songs, even the boat song, which, has a real, the voice actress actually sang it. It's not, orchestrated or synthesized. It's somebody actually sang the song, which back then, again, was quite rare. Usually you didn't have voice acting or even songs with vocals to them. I think one of the more famous ones on the PS1 era was Eyes on Me for Final Fantasy VIII. But other than that, it's, it's the boat song from Lunar. So I think I'll just end up repeating myself if I go any longer. I know this is probably a little bit of a shorter one, but I just wanted to share some special memories, moments from this game with you guys. So how about you? What is your experience with Lunar Silver Star Story, or maybe Silver Star Harmony on the PSP? Did you play these games? Did you have an interesting connection to it? Did you enjoy them? So definitely let me know in the comments what you thought of this game, if you enjoyed it as well. And I'd love to reminisce and talk about this special game. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to the show, and we'll talk to you next time.